controlling that lane.
Obey and Dignitas game 3 were tied 1 apiece. The second pick has won every game so far this series. Said a lot of that yesterday as well. Second pick seems to be the dominant position for these teams in picks and bans.
It's because it's 2 for 1. That's the main reason. Obey get the prime choice of what they want for themselves, and I wasn't trying to make a pun with prime there. They just get the best opportunity for whatever god they want first. But the second pick team generally get 2 top-tier picks in response, and that can really dictate the pace of the rest of the bans.
Personally, what I would do right now if I was on Dignitas, Obey, like if they end up banning Osiris on Dig, then Obey are going to first pick Circuit. And in the next 2 picks, they're going to pick Morrigan. So they have 2 circuits.
Yep.
And then Dignitas, they pick Khepri.
And what do you pick against a circuit in the jungle most of the time? I mean, you got to think about what junglers your opposition's going to play then too. For me, I'm thinking Humbats is a nice easy one. But then you give him prime the Humbats on the Morrigan as well, so it's even more problems. That's why I'm like, oh gosh, that's such a problem.
Amaterasu going through here for Obey. It was banned away by Dignitas last game. This time, Obey get a first pick it because that circuit ban was basically necessary, as you were outlining there, Raffer.
Yeah, I didn't really predict what would happen if they did ban a circuit, so the Amaterasu is surprising because he had a poor performance on it so far this LAN. And that's obviously, if it goes to a Milzy, it could definitely go to Maniac too, but I don't think he'll give that pressure up. He's playing way too good for giving pressure.
To be fair, I wouldn't mind seeing Variety pick up Osiris right now. They could actually go for Osiris rather than themselves here. They have the potential to be able to run the same comp Obey did, at least with that composition. Osiris, Raven's definitely available. If they want to make sure they get a comfort pick for Zeros, I mean, he's been playing more of the Sol, the Chronos, and you know, those sort of gods most of the time.
He can play any god those.
But I would like to see him on the Toph maybe. Like the Toph's going to bring the same, so I think his position is fantastic. So why not do maybe Osiris Toph, Raven Toph here?
You could, I mean, I don't even know if you need to, you could pick Osiris Raven just like Obey has been doing and then pick Sol or Chronos in that third slot before the ban phase because there's no way Obey is taking both of those.
Osiris or Bellona has to be picked now.
Dignitas waiting for their return picks. They need to, this game 3 is crucial. These best of 5 series, especially when tied up, this just gives you so much momentum. Dignitas lost a lot of that momentum. This is their first loss all weekend, and this is a team that has a lot of personality on it, a lot of ego as well.
I think the one thing is tilt that could really happen here, Rafa, with Dignitas, because they're all shot callers. They all know the game well enough, and they're all very outspoken as well.
Kind of like us.
Kind of like
energy,
you. Yeah. The difference is that when you're winning, it's not an issue. It's when you're losing.
It's when you get that L.
Neither Raven nor Osiris. It's the duo lane for Dignitas.
They've still got another pick though in Dignitas, so Osiris is 100% going to Obey now. And if I don't see the Bellona and Dignitas, then I think you're going to see a repeat of the last game.
It could all just come down to that Osiris pick, I guess. It sounds really strange to say that, but it feels like Variety's not been able to get involved in the game at all because Maniac is doing good work in that lane to pressure to allow rotations to it to continue further.
Yeah. Is it a problem if Obey goes Raven Osiris here? Is that too much physical already in their lineup?
I don't think so.
No, you can never have too much fizz, unless obviously you pick physical mid as well.
Sure.
You know, with always a big mage middle, you have like Poseidon, Toph, Vulcan.
I love Vulcan.
You cannot ignore that Vulcan.
The reason I really like the Vulcan picker, there's the Osiris. Now we need a Bellona, right?
Unless, yeah, you do need the Bellona, but unless they had Osiris and then the Osiris could literally stick to the mage mid, and then perhaps there would be too much physical because, you know, if
you could just stack the physical protection because Osiris is going to be taking care of the magical.
Thinking about that, might be nice to see a Zeus potentially here. I know we're not seeing much Zeus this weekend, but against the Vulcan, it's fantastic in lane. Osiris always wants to fight physicals most of the time with how his passive works. I know he gets a bit of magical from that, but not as much. So if he has to try and dive the backline and it's a Zeus potentially, it causes problems.
Raven is the selection right before the second ban phase for Dignitas, likely in the jungle, though that could go to Variety in the solo lane,
I think that will be a jungle, and now you're going to see the Bellona ban from Obey, because that's what they've done every game now.
I love the Vulcan pick for the one reason that those meatballs that are going to be coming out from Pretty Prime in the mid lane disrupt Khepri so well. Khepri's looking for those clutch ultimates most of the time, and at the highest level, everybody knows that, so what they try and do is make sure Khepri CC'd at the same time as the engagement's going down. A couple of things to keep Khepri busy makes it more tricky for Tricksank to make things happen for his team.
Nemesis and Sol, the first 2 bans on each side. Nemesis to take away that tank shredding option with the Raven likely going to the jungle. Chang'e
I love the
Chang'e away here.
Twig's pulled out a couple of times so far. The rotations, the extra sustain they're going to give for this squad. Take that into account with an Amaterasu as well. That means even more mobility for this team. Changa's going to be dancing for days, causing a lot of problems. And then Waxing Moon 2. It's one of those things that will shut down the Khepri once more, stop him getting those ultimates off.
This has got to be a Bologna ban.
It could be it could be a Kronos one as well, because they know how comfortable Zeros is on, you know, they've already taken his solo away, so why not the Kronos too?
That's true, and I mean, that 3-life mid lane mage that you guys ran a lot at Worlds, it was in the Hunter role there, but Kronos and Khepri, it's how do you kill a guy who has 3 life bars, basically, especially one that does as much damage as Kronos.
If I was Dig right now, though, I'd really consider potentially running Kabrakan in the jungle, and then maybe even another Hunter as well. I know that sounds really weird to say, but double Hunter, 3 frontliners potentially for them, one of those being magical, so can go for the full damage. Kivo's fantastic at Kabrakan as well. It could throw something into the mix of Obey that could cause them problems, especially with 2 Hunters in the back that are just both going to be poking away. Doesn't necessarily have to be physical Hunter, could be the magical version as well if there's any still available.
It'd only be Freya
now,
for that magical ADC, but the whispers are there that Zeros has it in his god pool. Wouldn't be a bad option here with that Khepri.
I think he'll pick it just because of the Khepri.
Tough. Okay.
I'd take that back.
You were lagging, and no one heard it. Thought the selection for the mid lane there. Didn't have the same success in game 2 that he would have liked on this character. Thoth 0 for 2 so far in this set.
Still a little bit more flexibility for Dignitas here, though. With the Raven picked up, it can still go solo lane if they need it to up against the Osiris, or they could look for something else. The Bologna is still available on the table, and the disarms are going to be very impactful here against the likes of Osiris too. Yeah,
I feel like the Ravana will be jungle, and I feel like they can pick pretty much anything solo. I feel like it should get pressure still because the Ravana applies a lot of pressure too. We'll have to see how it goes though, because in my opinion, it has to be a Bologna. It's his god, you know. He's so comfortable on it. Why are you not giving him it?
Fenrir and Medusa round out Obey's draft. I was expecting a Hunbats there for Captain Twig, but it is going to be the Bologna for variety. Exactly what you were asking for, Raffer. This draft across the board from Dignitas looks incredibly strong right now.
Yeah, I do believe they could take this game.
I'm not sold.
I think it can go both ways, though, again.
I'm not sold on Dignitas' lineup just because where's the initiation? What is the initiation of that squad? You're going to have Bologna roll in or Ravana roll in. And if that goes wrong, that comp of Obey that they've drafted there is going to do so much damage if something goes wrong in that engage.
I do feel like Khepri still can engage, though. It just has to be on your terms. Like, it has to be behind your counter ward. You obviously can't walk into their jungle and expect to win a team fight.
There you go. Team Dignitas and Obey split at 1 apiece. Both of our analysts like both drafts, basically. So we're going to have to throw it to the game to find out exactly what happens and who breaks the tie. Tom and Toli, it's all you.
Thanks a lot, Ryan. Obey Alliance looked like they were having some heated conversation there during the picks and bans. Ataraxia and Hazer both a little bit, I don't want to say agitated, but very passionate in how they were discussing this. They ultimately wind up with a Fenrir and a Medusa. I like this a lot.
Well, the goal of Obey Alliance was to get the Amaterasu right off the bat. They didn't want to go for this kind of aggression with the Robin and the Osiris. They wanted to make sure that they got this away from the hands of Trixang into the hands of a Millsy. But then they got this Fenrir here for Captain Twig, something that he's been known for every now and then alongside the Nemesis, formerly back in Season 2 and Season 3, but now bringing it out here in game number 3, paired up with Pretty Prime's Vulcan. There's a lot of burst damage potential that when Captain Twig goes in and dives in, Pretty Prime can easily follow up off of that.
This is a go-to selection for Obey for over a year now, since they were hungry for more. Basically, when they need a win, which I guess that game number 3 is very important in a best of 5. Obviously, you want to be put there at match point, one more win, you can go ahead, you don't want to have your back against the wall, etc. Game number 3 is arguably the most important game of a 5-game set. So looking at how this one is going to go down, nice little ricochet coming up from the Hou Yi player. This is considered a must-win, I would say, for a lot of players at home. Captain Twig brings out this Fenrir and will feed Pretty Prime. This is how they went ahead and beat Eager in game number 5 of Worlds last year to make it to finals. This is how they got through the regular season last year. Usually coupled with a Zeus or a Vulcan, this Fenrir is just set up to make sure Pretty Prime is ahead of everybody else, and that's exactly what we're going to see out of Obey Alliance.
You mentioned Zeus. We haven't seen it so far in this set. Not too much in the tournament either. One of these guys that just kind of fell out of favor, more electing to go for this high burst potential from a distance kind of gods, whether it's the Vulcan, the Toph, the Ra, even the Scylla every now and then. But Dignitas doing an interesting start here, whereas they invaded the purple minis, not the big one, just to be able to get back to the lane as soon as possible. And by clearing this wave afterwards, they're going to hit level 2, go back into the jungle, and if they really wanted to, they could look for an invade, but with Pretty Prime off the map for them, they could have seen a potential first blood.
Right side of the map, well, left side of the map. Right side of the map, there we go. Maniac's in trouble. That's going to be first blood. Hugo Fred claims the life of the Osiris, and Team Dignitas, the first team on the board.
Cubo Fred got into a comfortable position, catching Maniac slipping. Once you have that speed buff on the Raven jungle, it's just so easy to come in from the angle. And look at this, because Maniac started in middle off the bat at level 1, Obey had pressure mid, and then they looked for some sort of invade, whatnot. But then he used that teleport to get back into tier 1 solo tower, so off of that death, he's going to miss out on a whole wave. Bologna sitting at level 4, Maniac still just now hitting 3.
Yeah, it's going to be a big problem for Maniac in the early phases, especially because that's kind of when Maniac wants to do things. Hey, they're going to look for it a second time very quickly. There's a root. Prana Assault's going to do damage as well. And Maniac going to be stuck underneath the tower, not dying this time around, Toli, but right away, Dignitas have shown us their hand. They're going to camp this solo.
It makes sense, and Osiris from behind is just not as
Captain
useful
Twig
at
by
all.
himself. They're going to catch him. He's going to get stunned out. There's the pull. All of a sudden, Arkle sending him to the pound. It's 2 for Team Dignitas in as many minutes.
Just not effective at all. This aggressive start coming out of Obey Alliance. I like the idea and the thought process whenever he was playing the Robin to go for these early Sunder starts, but without this purification beat, he's struggling heavily.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that on the Fenrir. I mentioned before that I think it's kind of required on the Robin to allow him to get that extra damage, which Cubo Fred, when beats, that's why we see Cubo Fred hang out with a solo laner, so he has the 2-on-1. He doesn't need that bonus damage. If Cubo Fred wants to find ganks by himself, he's going to find out that he's probably lacking just a little bit.
Dignitas with a 1,000 gold lead. They're going to start the Gold Fury right away. Sun's coming down. Zeros could use his final judgment to secure this one. And Milzy right there in their face.
And it's going to go to Team Dignitas. Not even trying to zone, just going for it. Cubo Fred has the bubble, waits for it. Captain Twig goes early, and he pops the bubble way too soon. Trouble for Arkle under the tower. Raxia dives him, puts Obey on the board.
But a Milzy stuck between a rock and a hard place, between tier 1, tier 2. Cubo Fred just smacking them down. Variety taking out Twig for the second time this game.
Team Dignitas now up 4-1, and wow, this one is starting off really quick. 2K in the lead before 4 minutes.
Captain Twig, he had to bite down despite the Khepri ultimate still down, because Ragnarok also has a specific duration. If you wait a little bit too long, then you're not going to have that effect. So trying to balance out the duration of your Ragnarok versus the Scarab's Blessing didn't favor out Captain Twig there.
Nah, not quite. And you know, even if he had waited and lost the Ragnarok, a couple of basics, seizing Howl, that's a dead target. So Captain Twig, a little impatient there when it comes to bite him in the butt. Obey with only 1 kill in that exchange. So Team Dignitas' 3, totaling out to 4 after they get first blood on the right side of the map.
Captain Twig getting his own speed buff, but he actually has the Bracer of Undoing instead of the Sunder this time around. It's a little bit of a flexible relic start. It could be used both offensively and defensively. You're taking a lot of damage. In the next, compared to how much damage you took in the last 3 seconds, you're getting about 50% of that health back. Not only that, you're getting 3 seconds of your cooldowns reduced.
And that's the old Beads passive, and it's very strong, but I'm very curious as to Bracer of Undoing seems like an item that you got to plan for.
It seems that way because you're trying to aggress. You go in, you jump in for the Unchained. If you hit it, you're going to have a 7.5 second cooldown. You pop the bracers. Now that 7.5 becomes 4.5, and you could be looking for more damage. The high base damage of that ability, the first ability from Fenrir, is about 335 damage at max rank, just base.
And then don't forget, obviously, if you upgrade it, you get the 5 seconds of cooldown reduction as well. So might be what Captain Twig is going for. But again, on the Fenrir versus this composition, I mean, Arkle's going to stun you. Trex Tank is going to abduct you. You're in a bad spot without any CC immunity. If you're going to be forced into that ultimate every time defensively, that is Captain Twig needs that ultimate to feed his mid laner. That's what this composition is designed to do. And if he's continuously going to the Ragnarok to avoid the crowd control, that's going to be an issue.
Absolutely. Maniac trying to redeem himself after finding that one early death. Still looking for more poke because he has that health chalice. Every single time he backs to base, he's going to refresh that to get 3 stacks, 3 free health potions every single time, trying to maximize that gold spent.
Dignitas still in the lead here very early on. It's a 1-to-1 series, so our best of 5 now shortened to a best of 3 starting now, essentially. This is going to be a very big game for whoever wins. And I said before, I think Game 3 is perhaps the most important game of a 5-game set. Game 1 really sets the tone, but depending on the matchup, especially when you're against a team like Obey, level-headedness can kind of reign supreme. But when it's 1-to-1 here and the next game sets that winner up for the next game victory, that's when things get really testy.
It's all momentum in best of 5 sets. The previous victor of this set, Obey Alliance, coming back after their first set, or the first game loss, which was a little bit surprising just to see how much control Dignitas had, because it was very meticulous about every single step that Dignitas had. But Obey Alliance, they responded in kind, being able to absolutely dominate that second game.
And that's why they were able to really sort of return here on an even keel. Everything's pretty much all even. Big picture. Now, as we zoom in and look at this game, anything but. Digger up 2,000 gold at 7 minutes, Tolly. They've been up 2,000 gold since about 4 minutes, and we talk about relative gold leads. 2K at 20 minutes, I'm not going to call that a tie game, but I don't really care. 2K at 4 minutes, now 7? That's really showing what this team is able to do.
A little problematic for Obey Alliance as they're 2 levels behind both their solo and jungle counterparts. Trickshank barely able to avoid that meatball. And this is something that Dignitas are just so good about. Whenever they do get this kind of a lead, they know how to play with it and look to find little small ways to extend it.
At the same time, Zeros and Cubo Fred are liable to go a little bit too hard sometimes, so got to keep an eye on that one. Trickshank, the guy that usually reels him on in. Maniac in trouble here, does have the ultimate available if he needs to, but he certainly doesn't want to use it right there, forced into it. As soon as he gets controlled, that root comes out. Maniac knows he's toast if he sticks around, so he's forced in the ult.
It's only a
Milzy by himself here on the right side, could be trouble.
Trying to find the steal, but it's not going to be successful. Maniac, despite surviving, loses his own blue buff. Arkill strips away one of those oracles. Neither team getting credit with that vision.
Yeah, I like the defense coming out from Arkill, making sure that Obey don't get any vision for free or anything for free, realistically. Milzy forced underneath the tower one more time. Both supports level 8.
Taking advantage of Amaterasu before she gets tanky, before she maxes out that aura for that increased health regen every single time that she stand switches, is a nice tactic being used by Team Dignitas. And if Milzy gets poked out this hard, it makes it less tempting for him to dive the backline with his ultimate.
Yeah, he just can't do that if he is lacking some of the resources. Dash forward from Milzy, looking for the ult onto Arkill, and he'll get it, but the beads avoid the stun. Here comes help from everybody else on Team Dignitas. Arkill's gonna wade in his own ultimate, and that be that. The aggression from Milzy was not followed up on by Ataraxia. Because of it, the Hunter's able to stay alive.
Forcing out the beads out of Arkill, however, training out the ultimate for the meditation out of Milzy. That's an important team fighting relic that Obey Alliance is not going to have for another 100 seconds. Recognizing this, Team Dignitas could easily group up to try to go for their second goal fury of the game.
Ooh, very aggressive stance. And here comes the big dog. He's going to be avoided by Kivo Fred. Well done by the Robin jungle. Gold Fury started up, and it's down to half HP already. Team Dignitas are local, but the ultimate out of the friends from the mid lane will confirm the kill onto the objective. Meanwhile, Arkill does get something for his trouble, taking out the jungler, Captain Twig.
Finding that Gold Fury was so important for Obey Alliance to stay a little relevant in the game, because had they slowly allowed Dignitas to control the pace, they lose the Gold Fury, they're going to lose this tier 1 tower, granted, and now Portal Demon has respawned. Dignitas recognizing this, just go for it instantly.
And no help from Obey here. You see Maniac on the left and Pretty Prime on the left, Maniac on the right, but Prime's ultimate already down, being zoned out by Variety. The portal goes the way of Team Dignitas, stretching their lead to to about 3,000.
Great job by Dignitas. This is the kind of pace that they're really comfortable with. They like to take team fights short as individual players, but as a team, they're looking more and more like they have cohesion to be able to go for these little plays, stretching their lead ever so slightly, and it's due to the leadership, I would have to say, out of Trixtank.
You think it's all Trixtank over there?
Absolutely. He's the serious one. When we listened into the comms yesterday against Eager, whenever Arkle dove that Phoenix on the left-hand side, we could hear Trixtank's like, guys, Phoenix, guys, Phoenix.
Which is interesting because that's kind of a turnaround. Speaking of turnaround, here comes Trixtank looking for the turnaround. Maniac able to jump away, Captain Twig as well. 3 players of Team Dignitas on the right-hand side going to be met up by another one of their own ranks, and Emilzy as well. Dig forced out. Dig forces out Obey, and they're able to get a tier 1 tower for their trouble. Cubo Fred flips over the meatball, and here's some damage going on Cubo. Despite 3 different players in Obey jerseys, they just can't do anything to the jungle Raven.
Dignitas just not letting go of any sort of pressure. Even on the left-hand side, Arkle's making the rotation anywhere he wants to. He has this 2-level lead over his counterpart Ataraxia, playing the Medusa for the first time in quite a while.
And this is what Dignitas are able to do. They're able to take large objectives and turn that into smaller objectives. Arkle, not even bothered by anybody here at Obey. He's going to get the bananas for absolutely free. No contest whatsoever.
Not at all. It's just Obey Alliance are just too far behind at the 12-minute mark. They're down about 4,000 gold, but it's more importantly the control of the map. Without the tier 1 mid tower, they have nothing to really fall back onto. And the vision control, look at all those red dots on the mini-map from both the Gold Fury side and Fire Giant.
Yeah, Team Dignitas have a lead. It looks like they're investing their entire lead into map vision, which I say kind of joking around, but at the end of the day, the more map vision you have, the more of the map you have. You're able to go ahead, take those small wins that we're seeing at a dig, and turn them into a little bit larger wins because you not only get the pick, but then you get their purple buff. You not only get 2 people on the right side, but then you get their blue buff. And you continue on taking this approach to the game, and look where you're at.
If you're Dignitas, you just got to keep on keeping on. Hitting level 12 for a lot of these gods now. Sunder being picked up by Cubo Fred. Despite going for purification beads at level 1, we're seeing the Stone of Gaia picked up from Trixtank. Doesn't want to get taken, or eaten rather, by that Ragnarok.
Yeah, it's going to be a big deal for the Khepri here to stay alive and, more importantly, make use of that ultimate should any of his teammates get into trouble. Mystical Male is dominating this tournament right now. Why do we see so much Mystical Male? It's so expensive.
Some items, some gods go in and out of season. There's not that too much has changed in terms of buffing Mystical Male. It's just one of that extra oomph that you could bring to team fights. Whenever you dive that backline, if nobody's peeling for you and you're just constantly being left untouched, you're there for 10 seconds, and that 10 seconds is 400 magical damage.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
And that could be on multiple targets.
Both supports going relatively selfish builds here, honestly. Normally the staple of support builds winds up being booties into the 3 ores. Sav, Heartward, and Thebes. Sometimes we just see 2, depending on the compositions, but right now we see 0. Arkle sees Ataraxia going for it, gets the knockup and the damage out of the ricochet, but you see the Shield of Regrowth on the Amaterasu, which will make her zoom around, and then you see the Stone of Gaia on the right side onto the Khepri choice for Trixtank, but like I said, no auras.
And that's not a bad idea here, because as long as he's still on the ground, then he can always get off that Scarab's Blessing. I don't even feel like they're going to try to kill Trixtank. They're just going to get him out of the team fight during the duration of the Ragnarok to prevent him from getting off that Rising Dawn for the damage reduction, to stop himself from rooting or abducting anybody, and not to mention the most important kit of his whole kit, or tool in the kit, is that ultimate
revive.
That important revive. That's going to allow that aggressive Bologna variety, Raven being played by Cubo Fred, to continue the pressure and finding those kills on those hyper carries out of Obey.
That root, you know, you said and I think you correctly said that the revive out of Khepri, the most important part of the kit. Well, Team Dignitas want to make him use it right now. Big damage out of Arkle, taking out Pretty Prime before the ultimate can even come out of Trixtank. He's not even there yet. He's able to just sort of skirt on behind, and Emilzy, Araxia, the only ones in Obey jerseys right now. trying to show up and do something about this Gold Fury, Toli, but this
they know.
one's all dig.
I think they know. And Millsy was wrapping around, but he recognizes he's by himself. Zero's using that final judgment just to confirm that second Gold Fury going in the way of Team Dignitas and Obey Alliance. The timing of that death of Pretty Prime was just so unfortunate because not only do you lose your mid-mage, but you lose your defense of the Gold Fury. That Earth Shatter can be used from a distance that could potentially contest that final judgment out of Zeros.
Not going to be the case this time. Gold Fury goes to dig. And we're going to be leading by about 7,000. 7 kills in total, 6 of them with the dig stamp of approval. And Ataraxia is forced to clean up minions on his tower for what seems like the 70th time this game. He's just stuck under this tower the whole time. Medusa normally wrestles control of the lane. And you could say that Arkle has control because Tricksteg is there with the Khepri, but Tricksteg isn't there with the Khepri. So why is the Houyi able to just beat up on this Ataraxia?
Arkle's has been doing a great job this whole tournament of finding little advantages in the lane, being able to squeeze in that extra in-hand, squeeze in that ricochet off the wall that hits not only the minions, but hits out his opposition as well. Not to mention, every single time he outpushes you, he's hiding in the jungle waiting for you to make that rotation and trying to poke you out. And these little steps is what's giving him the slight edge. Now up 2 levels, up a little bit of gold as well, and having this kind of aggression is something that Arkle strives off of.
Well, Bay are down a little bit, but they still want to take the fight to Team Dignitas. Let's listen to them as they take the aggression.
Oh, wait, I'm
Medusa's half. Medusa's half.
No, walk up. Blacking.
Walk nothing. Finish behind. Crouching out. Mid-tech, go forward.
I have med as well. I still have med.
They're coming back in.
Just fed.
On him, stars.
Nice.
Nice.
Go on, portal again.
8 seconds for my grip. I'm gonna listen to...
Just bait them in. Like speed it.
Trick zone.
Secure now.
Straight to fire.
Fire?
Millsy coming in. Kill him.
Good job, miss it. Nice.
Back to fire.
Grip in 8. Back in. Medusa coming in.
Zone Medusa.
Yes, no it.
What is the damage kill doing it?
On fire for now. We need damage.
Fine. I don't see Medusa. There's only Vulcan and Medusa.
Vulcan.
Now we actually were listening to Team Dignitas on that one. They win the team fight. They're going to go ahead and look for the Fire Giant as well, down about 25% HP. I love the roles that everybody's playing. Obviously, the Soul Eater and the Jungle are the ones zoning, and just a very clean Fire Giant attempt. We've seen so many sloppy attempts of objectives recently, and that was really refreshing to just see Dignitas. All right, they take a fight, they go for the fire, they don't have it just yet, they come out of it, and then 2 players zone the 2 entrances, and the other 3 take on the objective. That is how you do it.
And that's just the dedication of the team's scrim time and practice. You have to know who's going to be doing what role, who's peeling in the back, who's aggressing in the front to dive the carries or zoning out. Arkle, though, forcing out the Purification Beast out of Pretty Prime, even using that Aegis Amulet right around the corner as Maniac, but Trickstank using that ultimate and peeling for his Hunter.
And here's help as well. Trickstank peeling off Maniac, but Emilzy out of the sideline comes through, forces Arkle into the sky, slows for Maniac 4 days, but a huge meditation. Variety saves the life of the Hunter. Now he's back to boxing, looking for Maniac, trying to find it. Basics are good, Zeros is better. 2 kills to the mid lane, and a fantastic save by the team keeps Arkle alive.
And the whole time, Cubo Fred's just sitting in the solo lane, gets the tier 2 tower, going for the Phoenix, Captain Twig in mid lane, and Millsy's the only one to go back to defend this, but recognizing this, he's not too interested in the Phoenix.
He's 4 levels up. Cubo Fred is 4 levels. Oh, Twiggy jumps away.
Well, either way, the Magi's Blessing is not going to make it too easy for this Robin to really find the damage or the root.
Robin's a character that I don't think is really too perturbed by Magi's Blessing.
The root.
The root gets taken out, yes, but he has continuous slows. It's not like a character like Naja or Tyr who just gets completely annihilated by the purchase of this item. Now, it's useful specifically for the Tricks tank initiation. You get rid of the root and the abduct. I think that's a very good, that's what you're looking for with that. Also, Arkle, right? But when QO Fred gets involved, nice, you avoided my root. You slowed again. You still slowed. Now you're rooted again, haha, right? QO Fred can keep on keeping on. Not concerned.
It's got to smite on if you're Team Dignitas with this kind of a comfortable lead. 14,000 as they get the tier 2 in mid. They're grabbing the tier 2 on the left-hand side. They still have Fire Giant for another minute and a half.
Which is an eternity.
It is, absolutely, because of the positioning here. They're not even going to go for the Phoenix, considering that the Gold Fury is up. They still have a lot of gold in hand.
Look, man, they are almost 20K in the lead. There's not a care in the world. Dignitas is going to put them at about 20K in the lead, just shy 2,000. 18,000 gold at 21 minutes.
Look at all that gold in hand. 3,500 that was just spent by Zeros. 3,000 I think it was from QO Fred. These damage items are just going to go through the roof, and Obey Alliance, they don't have the defenses to be able to hold on to this for much longer.
Yeah, this is a very nasty part of the game, specifically to have this amount of gold this early on. Arkle's almost done with his build. Ataraxia has 2+ items to go.
Not looking too good. Not looking too good for the Hunter out of Obey Alliance. The Fatalis is not going to be enough to handle the aggression coming from Team Dignitas. Trying to go down that mid lane. Maniacs, they're leading the charge in the front line. QO Fred with Tricks Tank trying to make something happen.
Maniac's in trouble, taking down to about 90%. Not too big of a deal, but Emil's ultimate forced out very early on. They're not going to be able to do much of Tricks because of it. Right here, there's Arkle shoving everybody off the left side of the Phoenix, allowing the team to come in on the right side. Love the spacing. Hey, P.S. Zeros accidentally kills Pretty Prime there. There's going to be the ultimate forced out defensively, and QO Fred doesn't even let him get away. Arkle picks up another one. 15-1. 16-1. Fantastic. Outlandish, phenomenal performance by Team Dignitas. They're going to go ahead and pick up the Titan here, totally. This one, extremely tight.
Hey, guess what? Obey Alliance, they only had 1 death the last game. Now, only 1 kill.
Back and forth.
Back and forth action between these two European teams. A lot of action, and this is what we're seeing in this best-of-5 set. Team